John Wick Chapter 1 opens with the titular hero mourning the death of his recently deceased wife, Helen. Not wanting John to be alone in his grief, Helen arranged for him to receive a gift of a puppy before her death. When a trio of Russian gangsters see John Wick driving a classic car, they break into his home, beat him unconscious, kill his dog, and steal his car. Unfortunately for the gangsters, John Wick is actually a retired assassin who is now coming out of retirement to exact his revenge. John visits his old friend, chop shop owner Aurelio, who confirms that the gangsters tried to hire him to work on the car, but he refused. Aurelio also warns John that one of the gangsters, Iosef, is the son of Russian mafia boss Viggo Tarasov. John had previously worked for Viggo as an assassin, renowned and feared as the Baba Yaga, but left his criminal life behind to marry Helen. Viggo tries to convince John to forgive Iosef, but the hitman refuses, forcing Viggo to send his men to hunt and kill John, while also placing a $2 million bounty on John's head. John then checks into the Continental, a hotel catering to the criminal underworld. All criminal activities are forbidden at the Continental, including murder, allowing John a brief respite. While staying at the hotel, John gets some help from his old friends, the hotel's owner Winston and concierge Sharon, in planning his revenge against Iosef and his lackeys. As Viggo becomes desperate to save his son, he hires an assassin named Miss Perkins to break the Continental's rules and murder John in his sleep. John's old mentor Marcus manages to alert John of this scheme, allowing the hitman to subdue Miss Perkins and escape. While John is away, he has an assassin friend named Harry watch over the subdued Perkins. When Perkins escapes and murders Harry, Winston has Perkins executed for breaking the Continental's rules. With Marcus's help, John attacks Viggo and his men, forcing the mafia boss to give up his son's location. After John finally kills Iosef, Viggo takes revenge of his own, killing Marcus and drawing John into a final confrontation. During the final fight, John kills Viggo and his men, but is seriously injured in the process. After breaking into a nearby animal clinic to treat his injuries, John adopts a pit bull puppy and the two walk home together. In John Wick Chapter 2, the titular assassin is paid a visit by a man named Santino D'Antonio, the boss of the Camorra crime gang. Years ago, Santino had helped John complete an impossible task for Viggo that bought his freedom to live a simple life with Helen. In exchange, John made a blood oath with Santino, swearing on a marker to help him in the future. And so now Santino has arrived to call John into his service. Although John at first refuses, his old friend Winston warns him that by refusing to help Santino, he is breaking one of the two unbreakable rules: no killing on Continental grounds and honoring every marker. And so John agrees to help Santino, who tasks the assassin with killing his sister Gianna. Gianna has a seat at the High Table, a council of 12 underworld crime bosses, and with her death, Santino could claim her position of power. When John confronts Gianna in Rome, the crime boss realizes there is nothing she can do to evade death and attempts to take matters into her own hands. John shoots the dying Gianna in the head to fulfill the marker, but then becomes the target of Gianna's loyal bodyguard Cassian. As Cassian attempts to enact revenge, John is also pursued by Santino's henchmen, led by the mute assassin Ares, who want to kill John to tie up loose ends. Under the guise of avenging his sister, Santino puts out a $7 million bounty on John's head. Upon returning to New York City, John is hunted and attacked by a series of assassins, who he successfully fights off. In a final fight with Cassian, John kills his attacker but is seriously injured in the process. John takes refuge with an underground boss known as the Bowery King, whose men all pose as homeless people. When John explains his intent to kill Santino, now a member of the High Table, the Bowery King gives John a gun with 7 bullets and reveals Santino's location. In John's quest to kill Santino and remove the bounty on his head, the assassin kills all of Santino's henchmen, including Ares. Santino flees to the Continental, where despite Winston's warnings, John breaks the most important rule and kills his target. As the film comes to a close, the Camorra gang doubles the bounty on John's head, making him a highly wanted man around the world. And for killing on Continental grounds, Winston is forced by the High Table to label John excommunicado, terminating his access to all underworld resources. The assassin then flees with his dog, knowing he was completely on his own to fight an onslaught of the world's greatest killers. In John Wick Chapter 3, the titular assassin leaves his dog in the care of Sharon while fighting off a constant stream of the world's deadliest killers. John then goes to the director, head of a Russian crime syndicate, to ask for help securing safe passage to Casablanca. Once there, John seeks out his old friend Sofia, the manager of the Moroccan Continental. Using a marker from their past, John is able to convince Sofia to help him find the Elder, the only person more powerful than the High Table. With Sofia's highly trained attack dogs, the duo manage to fight their way to the mysterious Elder. John asks the Elder to forgive his transgressions and allow him to live out the rest of his life in peace, which the Elder agrees to if John agrees to kill Winston and remain subservient to the High Table moving forward. John swears an oath to the Elder, cutting off his finger and giving his wedding ring as a sign of loyalty. Meanwhile, a High Table adjudicator hires a deadly assassin known as Zero and visits both Winston and the Bowery King to inform them that they had 7 days to abdicate from their positions due to helping John Wick, or face the consequences of their actions. For her own part in John's escape, the director is stabbed in both hands by Zero. When the 7 days are up and the Bowery King refuses to abdicate, Zero's men slaughter the Bowery King's loyal assassins before Zero viciously slices the king, critically injuring him. John Wick returns to the New York Continental just as the adjudicator and Zero arrive to accept Winston's resignation. Winston refuses to abdicate and John refuses to kill his friend, prompting the adjudicator to revoke the Continental's neutral status. And so Zero leads his men and an army of High Table enforcers into the Continental to murder John, Winston, and their loyal friend Sharon. Winston and Sharon supply John with weapons to fight off their attackers, which he successfully does until it is only himself and Zero remaining. After a lengthy, brutal battle, John defeats Zero and leaves him to die. On the roof of the Continental, Winston reluctantly pledges fealty to the adjudicator and the High Table. In exchange for being given back control of the Continental, Winston shoots John, causing him to fall off the roof and plummet to the street below. Fortunately, Winston didn't shoot to kill, and the seriously injured John is rescued by one of the Bowery King's surviving assassins, the TikTok Man, and taken to a secret underground bunker. There, John is reunited with the Bowery King, and the two ailing assassins agree to work together to take down the High Table once and for all.